listening to Think. I'm Chris Boyd. Today we're talking about the hazards of stolen mail, fake bank accounts, and private data up for sale on the dark web. My guest, Kurt Eichenwald, is Senior Investigative Editor at The Conversation, which published his recent investigation, Heists Worth Billions. So, Kurt, we should talk about this information that crime rings gain access to. There's a word spelled F-U-L-L-Z and pronounced fools. What does that refer to?
That refers to all of the information that allows them to steal your identity. And fools are sold. This is the most horrifying thing about it. There are marketplaces. There are marketplaces that are like the Amazon.com of criminals, and they are all dedicated to getting unsophisticated criminals the information they need to do these kinds of crimes. They sell fools so that they can open their own bank accounts or get credit cards in your name or anything that involves taking over your identity. But they also sell existing drop accounts that they've created. Some of them they created 9 months ago in order to bank accounts that have been going for a long time are worth more. They sell mechanisms for conducting these crimes. They sell basically masterclass videos on how to commit the crime. They sell handbooks to give explicit instructions. One of the things we had that was sort of difficult was we wanted to show the handbooks. So we did, but on the next level, we didn't want to be giving people the instructions on how to do these things. And so we had to edit out, it's like, here, we can show 3 pages of this 54-page document, which actually gives a bank-by-bank analysis of their weaknesses and how you can get into them and how you can open the accounts. And so, the scope of this is so much bigger than people realize. And people don't even know it exists. The banks know, the government knows, now I know, but ultimately, the general public and businesses and certain government agencies that are giving out money don't know.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, is it even possible to know when all of our data is in the hands of criminals who might be opening accounts in our names and destroying our credit ratings and God knows what else? This could go on for months or even years before we even have an inkling it's happening.
Yeah, they can. And, the big problem is if they steal your identity with everything except your address, because then it takes far longer for you to find out because you're getting, they don't pay the bills. And so ultimately you have a problem in your credit rating because you haven't been paying your credit card bills. But you don't know about it. So one of the, it really is a situation where people need to start getting subscriptions to credit rating agencies and paying attention to their credit and paying attention to what's going on in their bank accounts. Because really that's our only defense. Individual defense is our only defense because banks aren't doing enough.
I get all that. It is infuriating that this is yet another responsibility foisted off on the consumer. We haven't done anything wrong and suddenly we're responsible.
Yeah, and there's nothing that can be done at this moment to prevent the theft of your identity. other than taking every precaution to prevent the damage from the theft. There are marketplaces that have thousands of identities. I guarantee you, everyone listening to this broadcast has your identity information is up for sale somewhere. And there's as an example, there's one marketplace called Biden Cash by people who think they're being funny, I guess. And they are dumping thousands of identities that are real people, and they just steal them as they want. Now, in the end, you think, oh, well, that's just thousands. There are so many of these marketplaces. Biden Cash is just one that has been very aggressive recently. There are so many of these marketplaces that have all different, identification information that we are so vulnerable, and it's very hard.
So you mentioned, these arrow key thefts that are happening to letter carriers. They've been happening for years. The post office knows about it. Last month, the Postal Service did announce this plan, right, to replace those old school keys with electronic locks that are theoretically more secure. Why do most observers think, though, that it's going to be years before the problem actually gets any better?
Well, first of all, because the Postmaster General said so.
Okay.
that sort of was the big tip-off. The other problem is, this is one of these circumstances where what they have is a press release and some testimony before Congress. But when you go back to, well, how many stages does it take for the Postal Service to get something developed? Because you have to bring in companies, you have to get it done, etc. And there's hundreds of steps, and they can take many, many years, far longer than the Postal Service will estimate. They were trying to get a new truck that they said would take, I think it was 18 months, and it took 9 years. And so ultimately, that's the problem. When you look at how many steps they have taken, the answer is none. They put out a press release, but that's it. In terms of procurement, they've not done anything yet.
The credit rating company Equifax suffered a pretty well-known and very devastating data breach in 2017 and paid out to numerous individuals who lost money to thieves. Ironically, those payouts were sent to claimants through the mail, and some of those checks were stolen.
Oh yeah, they're for sale on the marketplaces. I mean, it was sort of the double theft. The hacking cost people a lot of money, because then once you have this hacking of Equifax, they got all this identification information, and then started, celebrating with tons of criminal activity. And so there was a very large settlement fund that was established, and people had to go through this whole process of application and proof of loss, etc. And when they got awarded a settlement, the settlement fund sent it by the mail. And so, because so much mail is being stolen, a lot of those checks are now featured in photographs on the marketplaces. And they go for, if they have a $2,500 settlement check, it'll go for $80. If they have a $20,000 settlement check, it'll go for $550. And now you've been robbed again, and you have to prove to the settlement fund that you never got the payment, even though the payment has been cashed in a bank account in your name.
So why would thieves in possession of these checks for, say, $2,500 sell them for $80 or $20,000 sell them for $500 or whatever the case may be? Why sell those for cash, like in this third transaction, rather than putting them into a drop account? Is this about not getting caught?
No, it's basically they are getting so much money from so many different areas that they'll sell things at what seems illogical levels, and the reason why is there are a lot of different criminal marketplaces, and they're competing for business, and so they could keep 150 of these settlement checks and sell 40 of them. And so 40 of them will bring in all sorts of people because it's, a wonderful thing to have. Not every marketplace has them. And so, it's a coupon, it's a sale. It's the same way, legitimate businesses bring in customers by giving huge discounts. And in this case, it's a criminal discount. And so attracting customers to their marketplaces, the marketplaces make a ton of money.
My guest is journalist Kurt Eichenwald, senior investigative editor at The Conversation, which published his recent article, Heists Worth Billions. You're listening to Think. I'm Chris Boyd. Also, like legitimate businesses, these criminal syndicates hire sort of regular people to do low-level jobs. Most banks have a limit, right, on how much can be taken out of an account using an ATM on any given day, the way that these stolen funds in drop accounts are retrieved. So thieves want to move quickly, right, in order to get cash out before arousing suspicion. Talk about these syndicates hiring what are called walkers to actually go in and pretend to be a regular account holder just making a large withdrawal.
The walkers is one of the things that was just so shocking to see, because they post videos of their walkers doing the work, and what they do is they go out and they hire often homeless people, elderly people. They always make them seem to be the kind of people who would not be engaged in criminal activity. They take them to have haircuts and clean them up and get new clothes, and the account has already been opened. It already has a lot of cash in it, and it's under a particular ID. They create identification information for the person who they've hired, for the homeless person or the elderly person, and the identification information is in the name of the account, and they go in and say, I need a cashier's check, or bank check, or some other means of access to the money where you can get a lot of it, and it's hard to stop it from being cashed somewhere else. And they'll get this money for thousands of dollars. They look very legitimate. And one of the bank officials I talked to said, you guys know what these people look like, and you know how they do it. Why not try and do something directly? He said, because we have a lot of legitimate elderly customers, and those we can't start discriminating against elderly customers by confronting all of them. But one of the things also that they do, what the walkers do, is they have like AirPods in their ears, and they're carrying a phone, and they, as they're going through the transaction, they have their driver, who is the criminal, the person who brought them to the bank, outside giving them instructions. And so bank tellers have been taught, if you see an elderly person, that's usually the type of person, with AirPods or similar brand, similar objects in their ears, and they're trying to get bank checks, pay particular attention, examine their IDs much more closely. But still, you can't confront every elderly person who comes in who has AirPods in their ears.
Will you describe for us just briefly how these video tutorials work that you can access for $500 or wherever on the dark web that teach you how to start your own criminal gang?
Yeah, I mean, they you don't need to know anything to start being somebody who participates in bank fraud. You can go on, and the instructions are broken down based on what you want to do. We talked about check washing earlier, and we show in the story, we show a video of it's a commercial. It's a commercial with music, and it has the typical kinds of slogans and demonstrations, and it's about 30 seconds long, like a regular commercial, and it shows the person creating a fake check, and it then has at the end, you get this and this and this and this, and that's the ad. And underneath the ad in the marketplace is, here's the price, and people buy it. And if it's not check washing, it's how to open a drop account, how to use a walker, how to handle basically every element of the crime.
My guest is Kurt Eichenwald, Senior Investigative Editor at The Conversation. We're talking about his recent article, Heists Worth Billions. We'll be right back.